Hello, chums. This is Margaret Atwood's latest offering, Old Babes in the Wood. Now, I should get rid of this for a start. I'm wearing this mask because I've got COVID for the very first time, because some old buggers maybe even at this talk with Margaret Atwood, because I went to the Hay Festival, spread their germs coughing and spluttering, and I obviously caught it because I was too stupid and didn't wear a mask. If someone's coughing near you, have one of these at the ready and sort them out. Anyway, this book is a book of a collection of short stories, and it kind of starts and ends with short stories about an old couple, an ageing couple called Tig and Nell. I don't like the name Tig. I found that kind of frustrating to begin with, but I mean it grew on me, and the characters are very good. But the overarching kind of theme of this is as we get older, we decay, we can't do the same things as we could do, and we do eventually drop off our mortal coil. And that death occurs in quite a few of the short stories. By the way, they're not all about Tig and Nell. There are some pretty weird ones, especially as you get to the middle. So the notable ones, actually, which I found was pretty interesting, is there was one about a snail called, what was the snail one called? It was called metempsychosis. So basically it's about a snail that gets killed, and then they seem to jump into a body of a female sales executive or something, or customer service executive. So that's kind of a strange story, but really, really interesting. And I'd say get it from your library. I got this from a library, but it's worth it just for that story alone. But the other stories there's some really good ones. Confused Snail, what was the, that's it. There's one about the philosopher, astronomer, mathematician Hypatia of Alexandria. Now, she was in the Alexandria library, and she worked there back in the day. So this was the first library in the world's existence, and their purpose was to gather as many scrolls as possible and have a library of scrolls, and eventually books as well. But they were pre-Christian, and the story in this book is about her death with regards to the Christians who brutally murdered her. But it comes from the perspective of her when she's already pretty much gone, so looking over things, and it's quite a relaxed kind of narrative from her, even though she does get brutally murdered. And that character is really interesting. I was at a Hay Festival talk about it, and it's amazing that they murdered her when she was actually the first female. She was the first author, because she was the first person to sign a document that she'd written. Before that, they didn't sign them, they were pretty anonymous. So it was a woman. The first author in the world was a woman, and there was another first for female authors as well. Can't remember what that was. But it kind of dispels this myth that women are second-class citizens and came second, whereas women have been very much at the forefront of human development and evolution, really. So it's not just in recent times we notice a lot more females coming to the front, or maybe we think we do, but in the past it's still the same as well. But I suppose we have waves of sexism. Anyway, that's something completely different. What else was there in there? There's a George Orwell one. There was a Martha Gellhorn. There's a bits about the war as well, which are really interesting about the kind of aftermath of war, and the stress involved, and the way people who have been to war don't want to come back, and they don't want to talk about it when they do come back. So there's a lot of complexity, but I think it was overall, I mean, I suppose I found the topic a little bit negative with it being all about death, and that's why I think the writing is excellent. It's top tier writing. So from a perspective of writing alone, it's at least a 4 or even a 4.5 out of 5 experience. But because it's all a little bit negative, it's probably more like a 3.5, or perhaps nudging into a 4, but probably a 3.5 out of 5 experience overall. It's not as good as The Handmaid's Tale, but there is a Handmaid's Tale style short story in there as well, about reproduction and kind of how in a weird future where things are going downhill with like a pandemic again, where people are dying or becoming unreproductive. That's it, becoming sterile. That's a very interesting one, and it's along the same kind of lines as The Handmaid's Tale, but on a different kind of path, as it was. So there's lots of inspirational stuff. Sorry, I'm shivering here because I've been going through the cold phase of this stupid COVIDs. But what else is there about this book? I'd say if you're an Atwood fan, certainly get it out on the library. I probably wouldn't recommend purchasing it off the bat, but just read through it. Read through it in W.H. Smith or wherever you go to buy your books. There are other bookshops, and just have a read through it. But I'd say I've read it entirely, so that should tell you something about it. So it's a good book. I didn't give up on it. So kind of recommended or not recommended, dependent upon your perspective. If you find the morbid stuff, the maudlin stuff a bit not your cup of tea, then don't buy it. But if you do love a bit of death and maudlin, then this is certainly recommended, because you will enjoy this. And they said you will get off on this. What else was there in here? I think that's it. There are some fairy tale style stories as well. It's got everything. It's got your stories about Mel and Kim, Nell and Tig, and they're the kind of glue that binds it all together to bring things down. It's very much a down-to-earth story, and it's something that you will be able to relate to your own family and your own kind of life as you decay and get old. So if you're young right now, if you're a young person, then I'd recommend you read this, because as you'll get told by millions of old people, once you get old, it'll be too late for you to realise how valuable youth is, with your smooth skin, for example. Anyway, that's enough from me. Just stay away from those sick buggers who are coughing and spluttering everywhere. Make sure you stay well, ultimately. But I must say, I had it yesterday, and by midday today, the headaches have gone away, and it's just a bit of snuffle, and my throat is a bit dry and a bit doodly, but otherwise it's fine, this COVID. So hopefully things will continue to go okay and on the mend. Anyway, any questions, drop them down below, and I'll try and answer as best I can. And Margaret Atwood, she wasn't doing signings, so I didn't get an autograph. She's too famous. Very good author, though. If you like Margaret Atwood, read it. Thank you very much for watching.